Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be tackling Egypt's economic file, where obviously Egypt has been really dealing with a problem with the value of the Egyptian pound against the American dollar. In the black market, it actually reached £18. In the Egyptian central bank's valuation of the value of the American dollar against the Egyptian pound is around £8.5 to £9. Now we're going to be talking about the value of the American dollar. We're going to be talking about Egypt actually trying to negotiate getting the IMF a loan and using the yuan currency. Now it had joined the basket of currencies. Also, Egypt has risen to 122 in the World Bank's 2017 Doing Business report. And joining us here in the studio to shed more light on this issue is Mr. Moustafa Ibrahim, member of the Egyptian Businessmen Association. We're also joined by Dr. Salah, Nosseir, the research and development expert. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me today.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our discussion, let's check out this report regarding the value of the American dollar rising to 18 Egyptian pounds in the black market, and we'll be right back.
The US dollar continued its steep rise on Egypt's black market, breaking the 18-pound barrier for the first time on Sunday amid continued scarcity of supply and growing demand. Meanwhile, the official rate remained stable, with banks selling US dollars at 8.88 pounds. Informed sources attributed the high unofficial market rate to government institutions and companies purchasing dollars on the black market to support the Central Bank of Egypt with its foreign exchange reserves ahead of an official devaluation of the pound. Foreign currency reserves currently stand at about $19.5 billion. CBE's board held its regular meeting on Saturday but did not announce any new measures concerning the exchange market. The board of the General Division for Importers met on Tuesday to approve a decision in halting imports of non-essential goods in response to a call from the Federation of Egyptian Chambers of Commerce. Meanwhile, the Budget and Planning Committee of the House of Representatives invited Finance Minister Amr Garhi and Central Bank Governor Tariq Amir for an urgent meeting. The meeting is to discuss the rise in foreign currency exchange rates along with the nation's monetary policy. Parliamentary sources said expected the meeting will be attended by members of the Economic Affairs Committee. The sources explained that members of the Budget and Planning Committee aim to form a subcommittee to discuss the state's resources development. Meanwhile, the IMF said Egypt is going through a currency crisis. There's nearly 100% difference between official exchange rate and those of the grey market. The government of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is implementing austerity programs to meet conditions for a $1 billion loan from the IMF to boost investor confidence. Egypt announced that its net foreign reserve jumped to $19.59 billion at the end of September, its highest in over a year.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, starting off our discussion, Dr. Nosseir, first of all, the value of the Egyptian pound is really going down day by day against the American dollar. It reached 18 pounds, which is more than the double of its value in the Egyptian banks. How do you explain this really steep decline day by day of the value of the Egyptian pound?
Well, it's a very difficult question, but we're not the only ones who've been passing through something like that. Going back to the mid-70s or early 80s in the century before. You have Argentina and Brazil, then followed by, I did experience what happened to Sudan, and all of us heard about what happened in Lebanon, and I also experienced what happened in Turkey. So that's the beginning of a big avalanche. We have to be careful, and we have to be ready. And I think unless we're going to take this very seriously, we have to be ready to, suffer like others have suffered. And this, because, starting we have to differentiate between the money market, or, you know, financially, and then talk about economic aspects, and then the development. Unless we have the developmental base very strong, then the economy is not going to be strong. And of course, there is an interaction between political and social and all that we all know.
Yes.
But we have to be ready, and we have to take this very serious. There is a fire, big fire, and we have to be very careful in handling that fire. And to me, unless we're going to take this, you know, seriously, we have to be ready for much, much more than what we're suffering at the moment.
Yes. Well, Mr. Ibrahim, now, we're always used to having a value of a certain currency in a bank and a different value for the same currency in the black market. Now, the value of the American dollar is really increasing day by day. It's almost more than double. Now, why is there such a huge difference between both values, and why is it not being controlled? It has been a case, it has been a problem for the government to deal with both, with the black market and the difference between both markets. Why are we not able to control it?
It's a lot of elements together. I would assume, in my point of view, is that the first main element is bad management. Because if you compare last year, when the previous or head of the central bank resigned, the value of the dollar in the black market, forget about the artificial or the official rate, was almost $8.5. $1 was equal to 8.5 pounds. Now we are talking about 18, more than double. The simple question would be, as the economy suffer, or the performance of our economy went that bad, the answer is flat no. There is a lot of speculation, bad management, all of that led us to that. First of all, you are talking every time someone from the official talk about floating the currency, the second day or the second hour, you find an increase in the exchange rate. Because everyone, their perspective is talking about the floating means reduction. First of all, I'm just very surprised. Nobody is talking about the fair price for the Egyptian pounds. It's very simple. It's like when you put many company in the share market. First of all, you make evaluation for the company, and then through an audit, and then you put a fair price for the share. The same thing with the Egyptian pound. Nobody is telling us what is the fair price for the Egyptian pound. Is 15? Is 14? Forgot, because the two prices are two artificial prices. 880 doesn't reflect the economy. 18 pounds doesn't even reflect. So there must be someone who must come to us and tell us this is a fair price, because their policy, or what they have announced to us, they are going to make what they call control floating. So what is control floating is they are going to put a price, and then if the price increases in the market, they are going to go and defend it. So you must have to start with, someone has to come to us and tell us the fair prices according to all the economy, or the element in our economy. The fair price for the Egyptian pound is so and so. You cannot leave the market like that. So nobody has come to us and saying that with all the elements in our economy having a problem with it. Tourism having problem with this and that and such, and we are positive in that side and negative in that side. So after evaluation, the fair price for the Egyptian pound is 15, for argument's sake. And then you float it for 15. And then if it goes up to 16, you go and defend it. But if you leave it for speculators, and everyone now is going to transfer his money from Egyptian pounds to dollars, because if you are going to, if you have 100 pounds in your pocket, every day now is losing value. So it makes sense for you, or the other alternatives doesn't make sense, but the other alternative to protect your saving is to convert it into dollars. So you are creating a problem. It's like a snowball. And I don't understand why you are going through that. If you are talking about reducing the dollar or the pound against the dollars to float it, we already did that in the last months. We already lost about 3-4 pounds against the dollars, which is the 3-4 pounds. You are talking about 25-30%. So it's almost more than floated, and without getting anything out of it.
Well, is that because there's a lot of talk about floating the Egyptian pound or the devaluation? Is there a difference between both terms?
It's a nickname. What's that about? Because that's why you ask me why. Every time they talk about floating, there is an increase in the rate. Because everyone understands from the statement coming from the officials that floating the currency means that we are going to reduce the currency. But in general, floating the currency is looking into the supply and demand. But at the same time, because what they have mentioned is that we are going to float and defend. What they call mean control mean floating. So for you to do that, you must have a starting point, a price. So because where are you going to defend the Egyptian pound? If let's assume you are going to float it tomorrow, and the price is 20 pounds. Where mean is the value or the exact value or the fair value for the pound, or which point you are going mean the central bank is going to interfere to defend the currency? What is the point? Nobody knows, and that's why I mean you put me all of the economy in general in the hand of speculators.
Yes. Well, Dr. Nosseir, you've mentioned that there are so many reasons for the devaluation of the Egyptian pound, and one of these reasons was the relationship, the directly proportional relationship between the political life and the economic life as well. Now, as opposed to the economic life that everyone feels it is really, really receiving a blow. Now, the political life should be on the rise. I mean, the government and the presidency has been really strengthening political relations with all other governments, really cutting government-to-government deals with major superpowers, with the US, with China, with Russia, with France, with many countries in Asia. The country has embarked on a lot of mega projects, a lot of electrical power plants, a nuclear power plant, the expansion of the Suez Canal. So it should look like politically, the country is doing much better than it is doing economically. So why is the pound still being devalued?
Good question. So let's first differentiate between public relations worldwide and the political insight within. And at the end of the day, you're looking for investors, whether it is internal investors, I mean local investors, native investors, and foreign investors. If you are an investor, and what are you going to be looking for? You call it politics, we call it what? All what I do care about is that if I come up with what I have to invest in. Is it called hard currency? Because it is stable enough, it is powerful enough to defend itself. By defending itself is that it does not lose its purchasing value. You know, you purchase gold or silver or what have you, what not. It remains, at least you know the relation. Instead of saying it is fixed, you know the relation. Yes. Now, if today you have a value and tomorrow we have another completely different value, how are you going to be confident? Because at the end of the day, when we talk about economics or development, we're talking about tomorrow. Talking about tomorrow, unless you see tomorrow, you know, as though it is today, you know, you're not going to invest. Because that's why they say that money is always, you know, kind of coward. Who, you know, whoever have some money is, you know, has some sort of cowardness to spend that money or to invest. So we come back here and say, we have to translate what you've mentioned by visiting and by relations and into the facts telling me that as an investor I come here and I am going to have my fair share, minimizing the risk of coming. Yeah, there is a risk of doing some business. Any business has some risk. But to come and tell me that the cash value is going to be fluctuating that much, and then to control me if coming, you know, I personally passed through an experience. I have signed, you know, a contract 9th of August with a huge amount of money to invest in. We have a major, I mean, I'm talking about hundreds of millions, hundreds of millions of not Egyptian money, but euros. Okay? To bring it here, I convinced the investor because of our past, as I told you, we have a conference and proved everything. For the last 3 months, we have not been able to convince the banks to bring the money, you know. Why? Because we have so many rules, you know. We have so many regulations. Of course, I insisted that when we get the money, at least the, man, the investor can take his money back. We, as Egyptians, can leave it over here.
Yes.
Okay, we have the list of projects that we're going to do, and the all what you need to have to prove you that this is going to be a success. Absolutely. Okay, but the rules and regulations, which is to reflect the political status. In fact, I don't care about anything but my investment.
Yes. So even though government to government, they can actually make deals, it really comes down to the foreign investor coming and investing here in Egypt. And we've been talking about the investment law and the difficulties. So it really, do you feel that the private sector is actually quite critical in determining a value of the Egyptian pound against the dollar and really affecting the economy that much?
Well, let me say it is not the public, private sector is inflicting. No, the private sector, you know, let's go back and see what happened in the world when things of the sort happened, you know.
Yes.
You're passing through an unusual period, so you should not treat me with a usual treatment.
Yes.
You know, so we have to be careful saying that, say, for example, if we have been allowed to bring the money to the country and do the projects, then you have to allow me major things. That if I would like to open a collateral, be it standby LC, which is not being used here, or an LC, let alone be a bank guarantee. Here they say we don't have bank guarantee. Why? Nobody knows, but they say because the rules. What do you mean the rules? I personally have investors to come here and give you 12 months of credit. 12 months in business, I mean trading, that's you know, tremendous. And turn that into, you know, the money, instead of they taking it at the end, they are willing to negotiate projects inside.
Yes.
But the thing is, they say we're not going to give you a bank guarantee. Why?
Well,
just
bureaucratic problems, as usual.
Unless and until you turn all your political moves, whatever it is, into something that can convince the investor of a steady state for his investment, minimizing his risk, that is, you know, speak as you wish, but you're not going to get it.
It's not going to change. Well, Mr. Ibrahim,
I want to shed some light on this point. First of all, you go back to history. Politics was created to serve economy. It's not the other way around. A lot of people assume it's the other. No, it's not the other way around. Politics should serve the economy. What happened that the president is like, let's assume that our president is like a chairman. Go into another chairman, another president, and talk about the outlines. Someone after they shake hands, someone has to collect all this information and put it in action. It's not happening. At the same time, what you have on the ground, you lose the potential. Why? Because once you go to visit, for argument's sake, Russia, and talk about their investor about coming today, and they come and you are not ready. What they do is they don't come back. So my point of view is that we are making a very critical problem here. You should close your doors for at least few months until you fix your problems. First of all, you fix the problem with the currency, nobody will come. You have to be realistic and understand how the other things. Nobody will come with two different exchange rate, especially if there is a huge difference between both of them. The second problem they have some laws like investment law. It's not ready yet. The third point bankruptcy law is not ready yet. So if you go and the president is doing a lot of effort and come back with 10% of the required results, I think it's about time to think about what happened in the last 12 months or 24 months. Stop this visit to a certain extent, make it political visit, and not talk about the economy until you are ready.
Yes.
Once you are ready, you will get the investor. Egypt, it's an important part of the world. It's the situation and the location. It's unmatched, but at the same time have a lot of problems. Let's talk about sense. Don't forget about economy, because economy, sense is part of the economy. If you have $1 million now and you come to our area, our region, where would you go? To Morocco, Egypt, or Dubai? If the answer is not Egypt,
which is not mean.
Then you need to fix it.
So you need to close your doors for a few months, fix your problem, and then invest. Because once you make your promotion for the country, you put it under the microscope. If you are not ready, people will not come, and tell other people don't come.
Yeah.
So my assumption is that the best way to fix this problem is that let's fix our home first and then invite people. You cannot invite people while your home is not ready.
Yes.
And that's exactly what's And you can talk to the people or to the investor, whatever you want. People have all the information, more than what we have actually from their embassies, from other sources and so on. So everyone knows the situation with our economy. And it's not that bad. It's not it's as Dr. Nosseir said, a lot of countries went through this road, but by the end of the day, they can fix it. But the way we are dealing with the investors and the investment in Egypt is not the right way as we speak now. We should we have a lot of people coming. I met a lot of delegation coming from different places. Everyone is keen to do business, but everyone, as Dr. Nosseir said, they have the money in their bank, they go back with the money. Why? A lot of regulation, a lot of problems.
Yes.
And let's assume now you are an investor, you transfer $1 million. And then you go through the central bank and get it for 8,990,000 or 9 million. Actually, the value of this money is 18 million. Why do you expect someone to come and do this risk? Why? Unless you assume people don't know the situation on the ground, or they are naive,
Yes.
which we don't have these two kind of investors available now. You cannot do that.
This brings me to the question about fixing our own problems, and you've previously mentioned that it is also a problem of management. Now, management means that who's responsible? The ministries that are responsible for that. Now, during President Sisi's term so far, the ministers who are responsible for the economy and finances, they've actually been reshuffled more than once. So you should expect that the ministers we have now are much better or more efficient than the ones we've had before. How is that not happening?
You remember, 18 months ago, we have a previous minister for investment. He mentioned that in 18 months, we will have the one window. You remember that?
Yes.
I wrote an article in one of the newspaper a few weeks ago talking about that. The 18 months expired a few weeks ago. Have you heard anything about that? Who's responsible? What happened? Can someone come, the Prime Minister, come and tell us what happened with the one window policy? Has anyone went through the new minister? Did she try even to continue what he started? Nothing. So why do you assume people are naive to come and invest in this environment? We are ourselves, we have to blame ourselves. We cannot blame the investors, or we cannot blame even the local investors. How could you make your cash flow situation if you have a fluctuation of 100% of your currency in 1 year? It can't. You will be losing money. Instead of trying to attract investors from overseas, I think the first priority should be to open the few thousands of factories that closed down for different reasons. So there is a lot of I think we have to change our priorities and our view about the other. If you assume that the others will come because we have better location and we have some agreement with Comesa and Quiz, we are deadly wrong. We have to understand investors come because they want a secure political situation. They want to have a secure business environment. They have to have a clear laws where they want to transfer their money, get their money transferred. We have one of the major airlines is closing their Cairo operation on the 8th of January. Why? Because they couldn't transfer their profit overseas. So do you think others don't know that? So if they know, why don't you fix it? If you cannot fix it, why you assume that the other will be able to fix the problem within the near future?
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one of the ways that the government is actually trying to fix it is moving closer to getting the IMF loan with a swap deal of the Chinese yuan currency. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back talking about the difficulties and how can this make things easier.
Egypt has reached a currency swap agreement with China valued at $2.7 billion, moving closer to meet the terms required to clinch a $12 billion loan accord with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The agreement is being processed by the Chinese authorities, according to the Egyptian central bank officials, who did not provide additional details on when the deal was reached. There were no immediate comment from the People's Bank of China. Egypt, struggling with the crippling dollar shortage, needs to boost its foreign reserves by as much as $6 billion in bilateral support before the IMF Executive Board can meet to review its loan requests. The country has already secured $3 billion from Saudi Arabia and the UAE and less than $1 billion from G7 countries. IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde expressed hope the board would Egypt loan request in a few weeks. She said Egypt is very close to securing the necessary financing required to seal the loan, adding that local circumstances will determine the best way for Egypt to deal with its exchange rate crisis. She said Egypt's parliament already passed the budget and approved the VAT, adding that the government has a plan on energy subsidies, whilst the central bank is committed to move more gradually to a flexible exchange rate. So these are the key elements of the program.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing our discussion, Dr. Nosseir. Now, a couple of weeks ago when we heard that the Chinese yuan is actually being part of the basket of currencies that would be dealt with within the IMF and the World Bank, a lot of people were enthusiastic and optimistic about it, thinking that, okay, so now we don't actually have to deal that much with the dollar and we can swap it with the Chinese yuan, which means less Egyptian money would be spent. How true is that, or how wrong are we to be that optimistic? And by trying to get the IMF loan, getting it in Chinese yuan, or basically dealing internationally, international trade with the yuan instead of the dollar, would that make any difference? Would that make life easier for the Egyptian central bank or the Egyptian government?
Well, someone is sick, and instead of taking the white pills, he would like to take the red pills, maybe, because the white and red, as you know. So would it make any difference, Wouldn't, because the problem remains to be there, and the question is, there is a big question that we have to face it as Egyptians, because we are all in that boat. Okay, regardless whether we live here, we live abroad, we are Egyptians. That's our life. When you say that you change the ministers. The thing is, stability goes with the person or with the system?
The system.
With the system. When you bring some minister in a cabinet of ministers, are you talking about that minister is going to come with the integrated system and proposing it, and it is going to go?
Well, the minister actually change or develop or better the system?
Yeah, even if he's going to be able to do it, he's going to be able to do it within his system. Remember, when you do a system, this is my business, doing a system. We've been doing it for the last 60 years, You have a system, okay. So you have to think of the components of the system, the objective of the system, the process of the system. Then we start doing the functions of the system within the process, and within that function, then you have to start thinking of getting some human resources. Then you have to do what you have to do is to get a job description and select the proper person to do within that system. At least all what I have said in the last minute has to be done. Otherwise, you're not talking about system. You're talking about something else. You're calling it a system, and you're calling it a plane. Well, it's a piece of paper. Can you fly? You cannot fly. It takes a while to think about what you are doing. Now, we all are saying, let's close the door and fix it. Fix what? Let's think of fixing what? How soon?
The urgent matters.
Yeah, now
the system.
I say, well, now we're talking about system. Are you bringing the minister with a system, or bringing him because he's expert to run a show? Now the question is, let's face it. There is a fire, and we have the luxury. We don't have the luxury of sitting down and making theories. Let's think of a solution now. A solution now to my end with my experience. Every one of us has his own experience, and he can speak it off. We can sit in a round table and we come up with a solution. To me, we have, because there is a fire now, and the fire, if we're not going to put it off now, is going to increase definitely tomorrow and the day after. It's not going to stop by itself. Nothing stops by itself. And if it stops by itself, then it becomes dead, you know.
Yes.
Then it gets. Now, to do it, to me, I say that let's, with the experiences we have, let's not talk about the existing system, because we have tried it, and we know that we have not reached anything that we close to what we want, right?
What we are trying to say, I'll finish first.
So, to me, you get some, you know, what you call it, not wise men, but decision makers, top decision makers, and say, come with a package. Whoever who would like to come at the package, and you expect it to come from Egyptians coming to save their country, with whoever comes with them, and give them a chance to express themselves in writing, saying what's the objective and what do they want to do, and when they want to do it, what is it they want to have it from the government.
Yes.
And this, I have done it personally 2 years back. Now, well, that's what we would like to do, and that's what we want to have from the government. Yes. One window is not just to come in. I said one window to deal with, to finish the entire thing. If you let me finish this, you like it, see it. We discuss it, and then I tell you, the periphery, we are going to be asking this ministry that, this ministry that, this ministry that. Get us someone to solve these problems at that particular time, because I'm a specialist in planning, and I know by that time we want this from this government, from this ministry. With that time, we do that.
Yes.
Get us somebody from your side to finish this at that time. Otherwise, we are going to be losing, and let everybody else do the same.
Yes.
Then the ministries has to follow suit, not to tell me what to do. I mean,
yes,
because it's a fire we're living in.
Yes.
So let the firemen come
deal with it
and set the terms, and everybody else has to follow suit. Otherwise, we are not going to get anywhere. Well, this is a solution. I'm saying it as a solution.
Well, Mr. Ibrahim, do you feel that by fixing the problem, should we fix an existing system, or, as Dr. Nosseir has mentioned, reintroduce a system, a new system, or suggest a new system to deal with it altogether, which in other terms, for the lack of better expressions, it's like reinventing the wheel, which is faster, which is better.
The summary of Dr. Nosseir is saying is that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's as simple as that. When we discuss, what I mentioned about closing the doors, because as you mentioned, we don't have the luxury of time, which I 100% agree about that, but at the same time, we are trying to put down the fire with the wrong tools. And what the outcome was that we are getting more fire everywhere. So it's about time to stop that and have a deep breath and think about what we are going to do next. Because what was the policy which we have been implemented doesn't lead to us to anywhere. It's as simple as that. A lot of economists will sit down together and disagree about everything, almost. Because one of the main elements about taking a decision means feedback from the public, like if you are talking about economy. But what we cannot disagree about is the outcomes, the results. It means the economy within the last 12 months and now, you can see the difference. So we cannot disagree about the results. You cannot disagree that the dollar was £8, 8.25, and now it's 18. Can you disagree about that? You can't. No. So the results show for themselves. I don't have to talk about them, because what we have seen during the last few months, it's a catalog of some errors to a certain extent. Of course, there is a lot of conspiracy from overseas and within the country. That also a big issue. But at the same time, a lot of bad management and take no decision and make no clear view about what you want to do tomorrow led us to a situation where we are today. Nobody, I haven't heard about any central bank who said, I'm going to float. Normally, they say, I floated. Nobody would say, I'm going to float. It does make sense because it's an open invitation for everyone to convert their Egyptian pound to dollars. Why would you take a declaration like that? I cannot, for my life, I don't understand why would someone go and make such a statement. Is there any reason behind it? The only result we are getting is every time someone comes from the government and says that we are going to float, there is an increase of £2 in the dollar. We have seen that, and it happened more frequent last few months, and I don't know why.
Yes. Well, this brings me to talking about the currencies. You've mentioned that one of the things that should be done by the Egyptian Central Bank is actually say or state the real value of the Egyptian
pound. Commodity, my commodity.
Exactly. So let's say, for instance, it's now 8.5 at the bank. Say it's 10 or 11 or 12 pounds. That's the real fair value of the Egyptian pound. In turn, the black market will
jump.
Exactly. So what sort of difference? We're just making things a lot worse.
That's what we are talking, running after your tail. So the only, my point of view, I might be wrong, but if I am in the position to take some decision, I will leave the £8 or actually the £9 to decrease it to £8 and leave it only for vital product, food and medicine. Because one of the main problems, why the government doesn't want to float? Because actually, which is true, and it makes sense. A little bit worried about the reaction on the ground. So let's protect these people and open the door for the bank to speculate and being a big competitor with the speculators. Open for them the doors, and the market, the supply and demand will come to a point, acceptable point. But ask someone why dollar jump for £2 every time they open their mouth. You are talking about £2 is almost 13% of the value of our currency. Like if you have $100 or £100 in your pocket, someone make a declaration and use £13 of this £100. Why should I suffer? Because someone make me such a statement. That doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Back to the question about the yuan. There is two things about the yuan. People are a little bit confused. There is one. The yuan come into the basket of the international with 4 other currency, which is the dollar, the yen, the sterling pound, and the euro.
Yes.
And he became now one of the major acknowledged currency. So any yuan you get, it will be calculated from your reserve. So is that good or bad? That's the first question. It is good. Why it is good? Because now we trade with China with $10 billion. We import from them for $10 billion a year. Normally, what we do is we import it through a third currency, either euro or dollars, mainly dollars. So the supplier, when he give me a pro forma invoice to open for him a letter of credit, he make me 3-4% extra for fluctuation of his currency.
Yes.
And the same situation when we trade with the transit currency, which is the dollar, the banks will have 3-4% also commission to transfer it from dollar. So if you take these two elements, that means you could increase or decrease the trade or the value of the trade by 7-8%. So it's good, big plus.
Okay.
The second point, and there is a confusion between two things. The currency situation, or yuan become an international currency, and the currency swap. It's two different stories. The currency swap, it's as we speak now, there is negotiation between central bank and China. What is the currency swap? They give you a yuan and they take Egyptian pounds. They did that with some currency, and the last one they did this agreement was Morocco. They give Morocco what's equal to $1.5 billion. Through 3 years, every year 500 million. What they do, they give them the currency and they get local currency. As we speak now, I think there is some negotiations. If we succeed with these negotiations, it's hard because again the problem with two currency or two value of the currency will make it very hard to conclude a settlement very soon or soon. Yes. I hope they can do that. But if we succeed in doing that, we can have $2 billion. They are talking about $2 billion. What's equal to $2 billion will come to our reserve. That will help our negotiation with the IMF, because the IMF one of their main requirements is you need $10 billion a year to go through your investment plan. They are going to give us 4, we need 6. And the 6 means the negotiation just recently was between, we are trying to get the 6 through China, Germany, and Saudi Arabia. And we're still under negotiation. That's why we have some delays when it comes to IMF loan. And also means there is some other requirement. It's not, yeah, we'll talk about it later. But
yes. Well, Dr. Nosseir, do you feel that now it is possible that we actually get the loan from the IMF worth of around $12 billion? We're moving closer to actually agreeing all the terms. Now, would it be better to actually have a portion of it or all of it in yuan and increase our foreign reserves of the yuan currency? Or do you feel that with the value of the Egyptian pound against the dollar, it would be smart as well to increase our foreign reserves with American dollar, which would work better for our current situation?
Please don't pull my leg to these corners of this big deal. Now, when you say best, let's define how best. Been taught, when you say good, tell me how good is good and how can we measure?
Well, the optimum, the best possible.
Let's put the optimum aside.
Okay.
Okay. For ideal is one thing, and optimum is another, and maximization is a third thing. To me, let's go back and say all what we're talking about financial deal as to whether we're talking about swapping, we're talking about whatever. You know, because we could do this in the open market. You know how it is when you do some sort of hedging, this and that. It can be done by so many means. But to me, let's think of the major problem we have. We're confusing between the economics at the governmental level, you know, macro, and the productive part of the economic activities. Yes. You know, governments, when they're talking about providing services, ministries, they provide services. When you come to economy and you come to stabilizing the prices in the long term, you have to speak of the balance of trade, right? You have to be putting this right where it belongs.
Yes.
The problem is that if we don't have to deal with others, we don't have to talk about any foreign currency. The problem is our need to get something from abroad, and we have to pay for it in their own currency. So let's think of our own problem. Now, to give a solution, I like to go to get a solution, not just speak about things. I get an investor instead of saying, like the gentleman was saying, and instead of putting off a fire, we get more fires to hurt us. Come, any investor, and this we can do. I can personally, I've been trying to do it, but the problem is that it's we have overwhelming resistance. Any investor, tell him now, tell me what is it that you're going to produce such that we either going to minimize our need for hard currency or maximize our gain from hard currency by exporting. And if you're going to give me a solution, come and give me a solution. What about you'll be self-sufficient, and tell me, I have a problem in energy, I have a problem in water, and I have a problem in health. Solve this entire problem, that sector entirely. Like in Germany, they have the Marshall Plan after the war. We can have a Marshall Plan over here and set aside everything until we solve our problems. Solving our problem is to get to be productive.
Yes.
Productive. By productive, I mean to get a product such that it will minimize my need for hard currency, maximize my potential to gain hard currency by exporting.
Yes.
Get a package deal from an investor, telling him you come with your money. Now you tell me we're bragging about getting some loans. What are we going to be doing with the loans? You know, generations will suffer from loans because it's not just the loan. it's the interest of the loan
rate you have to pay.
And then we're going to be having problems as we go along. Every time there is a timing for the loan
deadline. Yes,
everybody would be like, you know, it's the end of the day, the world now. But with the problem we have, and Egypt, you know, has so many resources. On the top of these resources are the human resources.
Yes.
And with that, we are to insist on achieving an objective of a package deal and give them all they can do. Of course, with that, you have to be, I understand.
Well, it's a lot of talk about implementation. Now, regardless of all these problems, actually, Egypt has risen to the ranking of 122. In the World Bank's 2017 Doing Business report, it was 131 last year. In 2016, it rose to 126. And for the 2017 Doing Business report, it has risen to 122. So let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Egypt saw 4 ranks up in the Doing Business Index for 2017 compared to last year to be placed at 122 out of 190 countries. Last year, the published report said that Egypt's overall rank is 131 out of 189 countries. However, within this year, the rank was revised to 126th, meaning that Egypt climbed 4 spots from 2016's revised rank. Egypt took the 5th place amongst compatriot economies in the MENA region in terms of the ease of doing business, scoring 56.64 points, and was preceded by UAE, Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Jordan. Egypt was among the report's top countries which have improved in the category of starting a business, rising 31 spots from the year before to register rank 39th. The government facilitated the launching of businesses by merging procedures at a one-stop shop, by introducing a follow-up unit in charge of liaising with the tax and labor authority on behalf of the company. The country also climbed 41 spots to rank 88th in the category of getting electricity and another 5 spots in the paying taxes category to 151 place. Egypt rose 15 places to rank 114th in protecting minority investors by increasing shareholder rights and role in major corporate decisions and by clarifying ownership and control structures. According to the World Bank Group, however, in the field of trading across borders and getting credit, Egypt retreated noticeably down to 168th from 157th and from 78th to 82nd respectively. The process of obtaining and processing documents has become even more complex after the government imposed restrictions on foreign exchange deposits and withdrawals for imports. In August, Egypt's cabinet approved a draft law allowing individuals to start one-person companies as part of its efforts to encourage new SMEs. Egypt's central bank announced last January the launching of a 4-year program to increase financing of SMEs, which the government considers key contributors to the state's investment and production sectors.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Dr. Nosseir, because we're running out of time, moving from 131 to 122 for the 2017 report of Doing Business of the World Bank. That's out of 189 countries. Now, the economic situation in Egypt is very tough. A lot of analysts and ministers are saying, well, still even the dollar will, the value of the Egyptian pound will still go down. Inflation is really very active. How did we rise these at least four rankings now from 126 to 122? Should we be excited about it? What is the criteria?
Well here.
Quick, because we're running out of time.
Well, you're asking a very, tough question.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a simple answer.
Okay.
Let's think of indicators to rank anybody or anything. Then you have to speak of indicators.
Yes.
And these indicators will let you tell you where you go, where you ranked, and this and that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, one of the indicators is the thermometer when I'm
Yes.
sick. The fact that he's going to go 35, I'm not very happy to have it because I'm about to die, you know.
Yes.
So whether and it may be 36, 37 exact, and I have a cancer and I'm going to die tomorrow, you know. So indicators, it gives you an indication of something, but it does not tell you what is behind that indication. So let's go to the why of it, not what is it. So we have to be very careful and not to be led by this. It could be used for a political, you know, word here and there, but let's go to the causes of the disease and try to solve it.
Yes. Well, one last question, Mr. Ibrahim. Now, we've talked about all the problems. You've mentioned some of the solutions. Dr. Nosseir mentioned that sometimes we need to re-establish a new system, fix a lot of the managerial problems. And bottom line is we need to do a lot of work ourselves. We need to be as productive as we can. Now, what do you see should happen? Things need to turn up, look up at some point. What is the solution?
I believe a lot of viewers will see me very pessimistic. I'm trying to be realistic at the same time, but having said that, I think the main point, my main focus, that we have all the elements, but sometimes we need better managers. That's as simple as that. Some countries don't have answers. We have the answers, but we need to re-massage what's happening on the ground.
Yes.
I believe that the currency and all of these things has to be readdressed in a different way. I believe that Egyptian economy have all the elements to be one of the top 10 or top 20. I'm not pessimistic. I believe the future is bright. It will have some rough edges as we go, but by the end of the day, we'll arrive there. We need to address the problem from different angles. Opportunity is there. We have the resources, and I believe we can see the end of the tunnel. We need people to believe in what's happening on the ground. Yes, it's tough time. Yes, we need to do more work. Yes, we need to do, but at the same time, one of the main things, and this is crucial as we speak now, is that we have to change our priorities and have different files on top of our priorities now.
Yes, definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of problems are associated and attached to the economic file here in Egypt, but hopefully things will look up and things will move towards the light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Dr. Salah Nosseir, the research and development expert. I'd also like to thank Mr. Moustafa Ibrahim, member of the Egyptian Businessmen Association. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.